Welcome Survivor to some more 7 Days to Die, and this time we're going to have a look at the Alpha 18.1 patch that came out towards the end of last week. Now if you have the game set to auto-update, you're probably already in Alpha 18.1, but I wanted to go through some of the changes, some of the additions, and some of the fixes that are noteworthy in the patch notes. I'll leave a link in the description so you can have a look at the full patch notes. But first, a quick note on compatibility. So normally, all of these patches should be compatible with your already existing world. However, make a backup. It's always important to make a backup if you really care about your base and your world, because things can go wrong. And if you look here, everything looks normal. And then I look around and I say, hey, there's a tree here. And there's a tree here. And I definitely took them out when I was building this base just to get a better sight line around the area. But one of the things that does happen when you update the patches is that sometimes not always, there is a change and all the trees regrow. And here, they're fortunately outside of my base. I just had on my survival base, on my multiplayer server, I had a tree that was literally right inside the wall. And that means that it took out one of my walls, at least one of the blocks, up to something like 15 high or something, whatever the height is. And of course it was relatively easy to patch, but it could have taken out, for instance, my boxes, my storage boxes and all that, which would have been a lot more annoying. So make a backup. And they do mention, should it be compatible with all saves? Yeah, it normally is, but yeah, beware of the trees. Some of the really nice additions here that they've done is really allowing better customization for the single player game. A lot of these things can already be changed in the server if you're running a server, but not for single player games. So you can change the blood moon frequency, which is really nice because obviously you might want to tweak it the way you want to have it and not just the way they have put it before. So more options is nice. More settings for the AI block damage, and this is how much damage the zombies do to blocks, as well as loot abundance. Really nice, just giving us more options. Same thing for the blood moon count. You can now have 6 and 10 enemies, and previously I believe there was 4 and 8 and 12, but 6 and 10 just allows you a better granularity when you're tweaking it for your preference. Customized club swing swoosh sounds, I don't know, I have to go back and see how that is different, but you know, I don't see a major issue with that one. The chance that the screamer will not spawn, I believe the way this is that normally when you have the heat map, it goes up to 100, a screamer will always spawn 100% of the time. Now they will have a chance that it will not spawn, which means that it should cut down on the screamers just a little bit. They've also made some performance items such as the video texture filter settings, unloading unused assets, and the lowest graphic preset. They've changed the tree quality, and all this should be good. It means that the thing should look better, but you could also change it such that it puts less strain on your computer for better quality. Ultimately, this means you can change the settings so that it's more in line with what your hardware can handle. Interesting for those who play and actually looking for steel tools, now they've added that to traders, and that's actually a fairly big thing because I was having issues with this as well. It's just difficult to find the steel tools. So you can find them once in a while, but you know, I didn't really find a lot of steel tools overall, and being able to buy them at the traders is really nice. Now we come to some of the changes, and if you've been playing on multiplayer, you would know that the melee swing actually allowed you to hear your friends from really, really far away. I mean, I didn't realize it was 150 meters, but you know, you could hear them from really far away. You would hear this swoosh, swoosh, and someone was swinging a baseball bat, for instance, and they weren't anywhere close. They could have been 100 meters away, or apparently up to 150. Mining iron ore yields iron. What does that mean? In the previous versions, you might have known that when you're mining, say something like this, and I got the one-hit punch there, I would actually not get this scrap iron, or what they call iron now. I would get this raw iron, and you would then have to scrap it or melt it down, and it would basically be 1 to 5. They have now changed it such that you now get just a normal iron, and that's made it to, I guess, simplify it a little bit. At least this means that you don't have to scrap it to get the normal iron, but I think it's a bit of a sad change because even though it makes it more straightforward, lead, for instance, doesn't require you to smelt it down. There's no lead ore. I think that they should make this more complex, not necessarily more grindy, but more complex. So maybe you need to have a special smelter in order to get the iron so that, you know, it sort of extends the game rather than just simplifies it. But that's what they want to do. They've simplified it. Eating glass is more efficient, so you can kill yourself a lot easier if you eat glass. Now, I've only eaten glass once or twice. Some people have had it in their hotbar and accidentally eaten it, and yeah, it can definitely kill you. So don't do that, because now it's more dangerous. A big change is that you can no longer craft mechanical parts and springs. If I search a spring, no way to do that. If I do parts, I can only craft electrical parts. I can't craft mechanical parts. And this is not something that is likely to have a huge impact on your gameplay, but I wonder why they removed it. I think it was a nice way that if you really needed a few extra mechanical parts or springs, you can just craft them. Now you have to go out and scavenge it or buy it at the trader. I think that's a weird change. They've been shifting too many things towards the trader as opposed to sort of being something where you can be self-sufficient. Perk Boomstick increases fire rate of up to 50%. That's nice, which means that you would be able to be more efficient with your shotgun, and that's always helpful. I mean, I think that's something that you saw on the other skill sets, where, for instance, during Machine Gunner, it actually allows you to shoot faster, so it's nice to have added that for the shotgun as well, just to even it out. Something that is really nice is that for collapsed or destroyed workstations, now they drop their schematic 20% of the time. That means even if you find a destroyed workstation that you cannot use, if you find 5 of them, you're likely to find at least one of the schematics. So that's really, really powerful, because once you have the schematic, you can craft it yourself. They've also made a couple of changes to the trader, so that now the new ammo types shows up as the quest rewards, which is nice. They've also nerfed the medical loot rewards and removed the plaster cast as reward items. Not really sure why. I mean, maybe they were just coming up too frequently, but they were fairly nice. They, it would give me, 15 bandages or 15 of the first aid kits or something, which was really helpful, because that way I don't have to craft them myself. A fairly interesting thing also is that they've made the landmine recipe cheaper and they've rebalanced it. So looking at some of these landmines, I think gunpowder, they're all right. Some of them, requiring hubcap and springs and everything is still fairly tedious, or the car air filter, because you have to go and find these ones. Or you can craft them yourself, but still, it requires extra resources. And if you look at one of the issues that I have with the landmines is that when you check the actual statistics here, it doesn't tell you how much damage it does. It doesn't tell you how far it damages enemy players or zombies as well. So you can go into the XML and find that out, but you can't see that here. So I generally tend to not use it, because I'm not going to pause my game and go into the XML just to find out how much a landmine does. They used to be fairly all right, but they need to put that information in here so we can see what's the damage. A really, really nice thing is that T5 clear and fetch clear quests, and these is the ones where you have to say clear out the factory, etc., will now have a quality level 6 item as a reward. And because you can't craft this yourself, that's actually really, really big. It means that you might finally get something really good, as opposed to you do a fetch clear T5 and then you get something that is just, I guess a T4, T5, which you probably can craft already yourself. Now you can get the quality level 6. So something for you who craft a lot of things is that some of the perks have been updated, so it's reduced the cost. So for instance, the Grease Monkey will reduce the cost of crafting vehicle perks. Advanced Engineering will reduce the cost of crafting forged recipes, steel and electrical devices. And you can see that's been updated even in the tooltip, or rather the skill tip. So you can see that they cost less. Crafting forged steel and electrical devices cost less as well. And that's really, really nice, because it means that you have more items for less resources. And finally, a couple of balanced parts in here. They have removed the blood draw kit. What does that mean? Well, if you go through your chest, you find something like this. Basically a question mark. It'll tell you that it's a scrappable resource, and that's the old blood draw kits that they have been removing. So why did they remove their blood draw kit? I thought it was fairly useful. I think it's a balancing issue. They were saying that people would basically use it 100 times, die, use it more, die, and just have a really large supply of the blood bags. And obviously, because you can kill yourself with only the XP penalty, that's a bit of an issue, but I still don't think they should have removed it. I would never kill myself just to get more blood draw or blood kits or blood bags. And just because some other players might be doing that, I don't think they should be nerfing my gameplay. Fun pimps! It's a sandbox game. If someone wants to keep killing themselves, let them do that. You can do the same thing with food. Water. Just keep giving them the XP penalty and, let me play my game. I would use it once in a while so that I could stock up on the blood bags so I could make more of the first aid kits. But unfortunately, it's gone. They also introduced some stack limits to coolers because apparently you could sell them and the end tables for a large profit. So yeah, that's just a balance issue. And now some fixes, and some of these are actually really important. Firstly, only original quester can see the red dots of zombies for clear quests, and this was a big problem because your friends couldn't actually see where the zombies were. Secondly, they had an issue with backpacks disappearing, falling through their world, I believe, and they've reduced that. I still think it can happen, but at least it's been reduced. They've changed the knife power attack, they've increased it. They fixed so that drawbridges don't take damage when you drive over them, finally, because again, why would you have a drawbridge if every time you drive over it, it's going to take damage? You have to keep on repairing it. Oh, a big one, client-to-client complete clear quest. Now, this was a big issue, and I'm not really sure whether it's 100% fixed, but I kept having that at multiplayer where the quest either wouldn't start with my friends or they wouldn't finish. And hopefully they've done some nice improvements here, because it's really frustrating when you go as a group to a POI to do the quest, and not everyone can actually start it, and not everyone can finish it. A silenced M60 is as quiet as a pistol, and I think we're having that with all the weapons where just putting on a silencer would make everything really quiet. What I believe they've done now, they've scaled the gunfire so it depends on which weapon it is, but also there seem to be the first shot, if you're using say an AK-47 in full auto, the first shot will be silenced, the subsequent ones will not be, and you'll even hear that. So I think that's a good change, because obviously silencing an M60, yeah. Something else that some people were using and highlighting was that Demolition Zombies Explosion was affected by the claim strength, meaning that if you had a land claim locked down, which had a claim strength, it basically protected against the Demolition Zombie Explosion, and that's been fixed. Really weird that was happening, but it's been fixed. Just a UI performance issue with having lots of craft ingredients causes lag, and I was seeing this once in a while when I just had a full inventory. I tried to craft something and just getting into the screen was a bit lagging. I think they've at least fixed that. That's nice. An item here that I'm not really sure whether it should be fixed, but they have been having issues with the heat. And they're mentioning here that now with Augur bells and whistles, it will barely call Screamer on its own, the steel picking it up to 80. So basically, if you're just mining, you should not be calling in a Screamer. Even if you're sitting there just mining the whole time with an Augur, you will, but with other picks, you will not. And again, it's just a balancing issue, but I think this is good because it was an issue where you were down in your mine, and just by picking away with your steel pick, you would actually get Screamers spawning. With an Augur, I can understand it, but not just by using normal steel tools. And finally, it was just a small mention here at the bottom, but on the multiplayer servers, they did have an issue with the first Alpha 18.1 that they then patched out into Alpha 18.1 that should have been 18.1.1, but anyway, wait, 18.1.2 was that player names could cause FPS drop, and that was an issue on servers. So actually this one probably should be Alpha 18.1.2, but anyway, it was a small thing for normal single players, but in multiplayer servers it could actually cause a drastic drop in FPS. So that's all I have. What do you think about Alpha 18.1? Or what else do you want them to fix or change or add for Alpha 18 before we get into the Alpha 19 talks? Let me know in the comment section below what you think. And of course, if you're here, you did hit that subscribe button, right? Thank you very much. I'll see you again.
Special thanks to the great patrons supporting the channel. If you would like to join the vetted community and support these videos, do follow the Patreon link.